Hello again, my friends. Brian King here from iPhone Central. I want to share a story with you about my oldest son, who's now 18. I think he was around 9 years old at the time when this happened. He was having a very difficult time emotionally at school, and it seemed that he was going out of his way to make everybody around him miserable. He would threaten, call names, break things. If there was a birthday party, he would go out of his way to ruin it, to try and make the birthday person feel bad. And there was one incident at home where I was doing my best to try and make him laugh or try and make him happy, and he would just amp it up. He would be more insulting. He would be more, disrespectful, you name it. And I finally said to him, you know what, I'm just trying to make you happy, but it doesn't seem like you're going to be happy until both of us are miserable. And he said, that's right. And I said to him, well, why on earth is that? And he said, because then it's fair. And a lightning bolt shot through my brain, light bulb went off in that moment. That essentially what he was telling me is that fairness to him meant that both people were on the same page, even if it was miserable. Think about it this way. When it comes to relationships, the power dynamic happens in one of three ways. It's either win-win, win-lose, or lose-lose. And our kids tend to think in a very black and white fashion if they have Asperger's, ADHD, something along those lines. And a lot of these kids also, because of their executive functioning challenges, if they have emotional regulation issues, if they're used to being criticized. These are kids that often believe they do not have the capacity or the right to be happy. They believe it is their destiny to be miserable. So when they see other people being happy and they think it's unattainable to them, they think it's unfair. Life is unfair. Why is it you get to be happy when I'm not? So they initiate what I refer to as the fairness doctrine, which is their internal law that life has to be fair, meaning life has to meet them where they are at. If they are miserable, everybody else must be miserable too. And they don't like the win-lose because they usually feel like they're on the losing end of it. I see and I get messages all the time from parents that say, my child is just horrible towards his siblings, always teasing them, always being mean to them. Yeah, your kid is probably playing win-lose, meaning seeing happy siblings is something your child begins to resent because he or she doesn't know how to be happy separate from others, and more importantly, your child does not know how to be happy with others. The idea of the win-win tends to elude our kiddos because they've learned that the universe is actually win-lose. Everybody else is happy, I'm miserable. But in order for me to be happy, you must be miserable. But if I can't figure out how to be happy, we both need to be miserable. See the logic in that? It doesn't make sense to us because we know how to be happy. But when you understand where your child is operating from, it makes perfect sense. So how do you switch this dynamic? Well, the first thing you need to do is call out the elephant in the room. Say to your kid when they're acting miserable, you say, you know what? You seem to be pretty upset. And I suspect that you're very sad. And for some reason, you want us to feel sad too. Is that correct? And typically, the child will say, yeah. Why should you get to be happy? Or something like that. When you articulate it for your child, he'll probably admit to it. Yeah, that's right. Then you can say, that's interesting. I see what you're going for here. What do you think about the idea of all of us being happy instead of all of us being miserable? Now, I don't want to offer too much to and fro, back and forth dialogue here because depending on your child's response, depending on your relationship with that child, the dialogue will vary. But the spirit of it is the same, which is you want to point out to your child that you understand that he or she is sad, miserable, angry, and wants to bring everybody else along for the ride just to feel fairness. But when you begin exploring the idea that, yeah, we can be happy together, fairness can also exist with us being happy instead of miserable. And then you can invite them to have the conversation. In many cases, these kids have given up on being happy, so if you ask them, what makes you happy? They may honestly have to think about it. Because some of the kids who say, oh, I'm okay alone, I don't need friends, are lying to themselves because they have resigned themselves to the belief that friendship is beyond them, something they'll never have. So they pretend they don't need it. It's a lie they tell themselves to protect themselves from the hurt, from the pain of loneliness. But that's another conversation. But the important thing is to have that conversation about what would make you happy. What could you be doing to make you feel more happiness? And then here's a real key part to shifting this whole behavior of your child's, is to talk about ways you can experience that happiness together. So your child wants to go see a movie. Your child wants to, go for a walk. Pokemon Go is the thing, right? But when you're in that moment, when you see your child smile, when you hear him laugh, you can say, you know what? I'm really glad we're experiencing this together. And reinforce to him in the moment when he's having that emotion that we're experiencing this together. Isn't it wonderful? I can't wait till we do this again sometime. And begin creating those opportunities, those moments where you can be happy together. And then at some point, you want to encourage your child to invite a sibling along. Invite a friend along. So that that experience of happiness together generalizes beyond you into other relationships. And that's how you begin to shift the dynamic and redefine what fairness means and help your child find happiness again. I hope this has been helpful for you. If so, feel free to share it generously. I'll see you again soon.